All right, welcome back. Now, I won't be too long on this video. You see your screen right here? See this? It measures what percent of this country is Black American. The darkest green is 30% or more. For example, with Mississippi is about 38% black. Alabama, I think, is around 28% black. 12% of the population, it's impossible for 12% of the population to populate the country like this. Because think about it. This is 12% of the country. So we're going to have to disperse that 12% across multiple states. Let's say you contribute a percentage to New York. Now you're down to 11%. 1% here, 1% here, 1% here, 1%. Do you think 1% of our population is causing us to represent 38% of an entire state? Think about that. Look at this. This is impossible. It's impossible. And it's kind of deceptive, this map is, because you look at the lighter green, let's say Ohio, for example, is supposed to be between 15 and 20% black. But I'm from Ohio. I've lived in all of the major cities except for Akron here in Ohio. And the black population here is massive. Same for Michigan. As we all know, Detroit is right here, which is percentage-wise has the highest percentage of Black Americans, Detroit, Michigan. But yet it's a light green state. I won't say light green, sort of a mid-green. Same for Illinois. We know that not only Chicago has a massive black population, but so the same goes for Gary, Indiana, and several small towns throughout the entire state where it's majority black. People forget about that. Most people don't even reflect on it. We have a lot of small towns. We populate a huge number of small towns. Look at the population distribution by county rather than state. Don't forget about Maryland up here. Break it down by county rather than state. Here's one that breaks it down by the county. You can see the counties that with the highest percentage of Black Americans is in one right down here. Mississippi. Excuse me. You got top 10. What was this? Claiborne in Mississippi, 88% black. Jefferson, Mississippi, so on and so forth. Got Alabama and Mississippi, pretty much they have the highest percentage of Black Americans. We make up the highest percentage of these states. You also got Virginia in here. But understand, that's just a small list of counties. How can 12% of the population make up, what is it? Now on this map, the dark green represents 80% or more. The darkest green represents 80% or more. How can 12% of the population make up this? That's impossible, people. It's impossible. It's impossible. And it's funny that we're looking by county. That's going to make a big difference, because you see how even to this day, we make up the largest percent of the southern population. It's pretty much the same way it was long ago. Most of our population is still concentrated in the southern United States. However, like I said a few minutes ago, we have a huge presence in the north. Huge. You see the Ohio map, for example. The darkest green is down here: Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, Ohio. Okay, what county is this? This might be Allen County. That might be Lima, where I'm from. Toledo, Cleveland. It still has dark green counties, colored counties, because our population is still massive up here. Okay, and this is only going to get worse. Of course, Detroit right here, got Flint, Saginaw, Pontiac. Pontiac is another relatively small city with a huge black population. Here, Indiana, got Indianapolis here, Gary up here. Of course, massive black population. Is Peoria, I think, somewhere around here. But you see the dark green counties. Many of these counties is where you find these small cities with a majority black population. How that's impossible for 12% of the population to do. Impossible. All the way up here, Minnesota, is it Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We still, even in the states where we're the minority, you still find pockets of black Americans. How can 12% don't spread that wide? 12% of the population, it's impossible for it to spread that wide, that much, to be overrepresented in so many states and counties. That is impossible, people. We ain't no 12% of this population. You can forget about it. Let's go further. List of United States communities. Communities with majority black population per 2020. Look at this ridiculously long list. You're not talking about cities, states, or counties. You're talking about communities across all states. Look at this ridiculous list. It's where blacks are the majority in these communities. Are you kidding me? You say 12%? Oh, you got jokes today. You got jokes today. And you can see in every single state, almost every single state has majority black community somewhere in the state. So don't think that, we're just in the South. or no nonsense like that. We are all over this country. And I'm telling you now, that's one of the country's best kept secrets. Our true percentage of this country. Like I said, my theory is that we're about half of this country. We are not no 12%. There is no way we could be 12% of this population. We are far closer to 50%. That is my personal opinion based on the information available. Cities in the United States, major cities up on your screen. Most of you have seen this. Look at this. 12% of the population could not accomplish this. South Fulton, Georgia, 93% black. Just focus on this column right here in the middle, and the state in the city. This is ridiculous. Baltimore, okay? Look at the percentages. 93%, 80, 69%. Impossible. This is impossible for 12% of the population to accomplish. Look at this. This is ridiculous. And like I said before, when you actually go to some of these cities, it looks like the black population is larger than what they even document. Remember, many of us, we don't do those census things. We don't fill out no census forms. So we don't even report ourselves. But I think anybody who believes that really believes that we're 12% of the population at this point, especially if you're a traveling person, you've been to multiple cities in the country, I got to question how bright you are. If you travel city to city, maybe you're an athlete, whatever, and after all that, you still say and believe that we're 12% of population, I got to question how bright you are. Look at this. Even Columbus, Ohio is on this list at 31% black. It seems like it's more than that. Okay? I think the whole idea of us being 12% of this country is laughable. It's laughable. And anybody, I'm getting to the point where anybody who don't question that 12%, I instantly label them as not very bright. I won't say that. Not very objective. They're not very critical. They don't really look at things critically. They don't question everything that they hear or see. You know what I'm saying? When you're talking about numbers and percentages, I'm always critical of that because I didn't do the counting. I'm not the one who went out there and counted the number of blacks and whites in this country. Why should I just believe? Why should I believe you? Huh? Remember, rulers throughout history have depended on the population's willingness to believe whatever they tell them. You remember how sometimes you get punished if you go against the king's word and stuff like that. Complete control of their constituents. And that 12% mantra, that has been a con that has been run on us. They have always sought to make us feel like inferiors, and that is a part of it. That was a part of it. To make you feel like you're a tiny minority. You're only 12%. Right? You hardly even exist. Then you go out into the world and you don't see 12%. I don't care what nobody say. Now, I personally, I have not traveled every state or a city in this country. I've only been to a few. Like I said, all the major cities here in Ohio. I've been Detroit. I've been in Atlanta, New York City. Not that many places. Tuscaloosa while I was in Alabama. Also been to Montgomery. Jackson, Mississippi. My family is from Jackson in Alabama. Never been but even just in the cities that I've visited, the population percentage for blacks is much higher than what they have recorded on paper easily. And also keep in mind there's several major cities on this list. This list simply seeks to list cities with large black populations. Cities. And so they're not all major cities, but some of them are. Detroit, got Baltimore on here, New Orleans on here. Major cities, telling me 12% making up dozens of the 12 dozens of cities making up the majority of the population. Man, beat it. Beat it. We need true numbers out here. Obviously, we can't depend on the census. We can't depend on them. And there has to be a legal way that any group or organization, if they want to, can do a tally of the population and true demographics. Because this ain't it. This 12% nonsense ain't it. I'll continue to question our population here in this country, and I will continue to question the slave trade as it is taught. Ain't nobody about to convince me that they had some 40,000 ships and 40,000 voyages back and forth from Africa and did not save one intact ship. Not one. Not a single one. Remember, they were doing these voyages even in the 1800s. And we freed in what, 1867 or somewhere? Something like that, right? 1867, 68. Where were the ships? White people saved stuff. White people save stuff. They're the savingest people in the world. You see how they save these antique cars? We got cars right now today that are over 100 years old. They love to save stuff. You telling me they didn't save one slave ship? And then somebody will say, oh, they all sunk. What are you talking about? If they all sunk, they would have failed to bring the population over here. What are you talking about? They all sunk. Nonsense. That's the one thing we'd see, man. We'd see slave ships all over this country in museums. Real intact slave ships if this actually happened. Think, man. That would be a part of the entire Black history thing that people have going on. You got Black history museums all over the world. You got museums in general. They don't even represent themselves as Black museums. They're just museums, but inside they'll have a section dedicated to slavery. We should be able to see several different slave ships in several different museums today if that actually happened, people. It never happened. They came over here and pointed their Roscoes at the people they found over here. We were already here. And we had been here for tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of years. They did not haul us over here from Africa. The only people they brought from Africa was the people they was working with over there in Africa. Over there working with the Moors and other translators. They get here and they find out they about to be enslaved too. That is far too expensive of a thing to do for a bunch of so-called poor, semi-poor population. If you had wealth to carry that out, you wouldn't need slavery, especially in those days. It's a fairy tale, people. Forget about it. I'm telling you, man, most things that we believe or are told today originated during the Great Awakening. Isn't that what it was called? The Great Awakening of Europe. Why does that sound funny right now? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'm at the Great Awakening. During the, first began in 1730s. It's when Europeans got their hands on those manuscripts from the Moors. The Moors had obtained the information within those manuscripts from the Egyptians. They was working with the Europeans, coming back and forth from here, communicating with the people. I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but there were black people all over the world. All over the world when Christopher Columbus sailed around the world. It is impossible for this country to have not been inhabited. And what are we even talking about when we've already found ancient civilizations and artifacts over here of Negroes? All right, artifacts of Negroes. I'm not even having the discussion. I wish one of these dudes would come up in here and question me on, like they be questioning other people. Oh, you were not here. You were brought here on ships. Yeah, right. You got to put it out there like that. You got to make people. Oh, the Elmina Castle. I don't even know what that castle was. That thing could have been anything. It could have been anything. And why would it just be one castle? If slavery was was such a norm, and they brought so many people and made so many voyages, they're said to have made like 40,000 voyages in about 200 years time span. Do you know how often? That's like multiple trips per week. That's like 3 to 4 voyages per week. Ships going out per week. No way. Do you really think there would just be one castle, one holding castle for all those trips? Over there on the shores in Africa, they would have ships coming after ships, 2, 3 ships here at one time, and that would be round the clock, man. A business all up in itself. You wouldn't be able to house all those people in no one little castle. Those the native people over there, goofies, They can call it a castle all they want. They have a very weak knowledge of history, if you ask me. I'm not buying it. Now, if there were multiple castles over there, and more signs of what they claim to be, then maybe it would have more validity. But not now. Not now. But like I was saying about the Great Awakening, y'all got to remember, one of the things about that period of time is that the wise men, the monks and all of, they were encouraged to lie. They did not look down on lying and making things up. They looked at it as something that was necessary. It was necessary to sometimes ignore facts and make things up. They had no respect for truth at all. At all. And we'll be stupid to take everything that was given to us originating from that era. We'd be stupid to accept it as fact now, and most of us are. Just like some of you seen the series I made on how there was no ancient Greece. Ancient Greece never existed. The civilization we look at as ancient Greece actually took place during the Middle Ages, not in the BC era. The civilization that thrived, that they're referring to in the different events, and all that was in the Middle Ages. And that, it's just falsified history. Falsified history. Now, I believe ancient Egypt existed far beyond in the BC era. Think about it. Go watch that series that I did on this subject. I put all the information I could find and I put it in there. It's pretty much, if you ask me, impossible for anybody to believe what they currently believe now after listening to it. Let me see. I'm thinking you should start with part 1. Okay, this is part 4. Okay, where's part 1? Okay, this is part 1. This is part 1. Let me copy this. If you haven't checked it out already. And, the first part has got a lot of views, 12,000 views, because a lot of white guys have come, and some have agreed, and some have disagreed. Yeah, Anatoly Fomenko. If you can get that book, it's even available online somewhere. I remember seeing it in the PDF. Anatoly Fomenko really, really shook up the world of history when he debunked the idea of an ancient Greece in the BC era. It's like he was like a rebel. He rebelled against conventional thought. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to co-sign with what everybody before you co-signs with. Right? But I digress. Our population, for whatever if they were to tell us that we made up 45% of this country or 50% of this country, they would feel afraid. They would feel afraid that that would embolden us, gas our head up. That's what I believe. And that's why they have insisted on lying about our true population and about where we really came from. Everything that comes that came from that same era. The idea that we was hauled over here in ships came from that lying middle-aged era. Ain't nobody in their right state of mind would want to go on a ship and be out there exposed to the elements for some 6-8 weeks. What is it, 12 weeks? It took them some nonsense, something insane like that. Got to deal with all the types of weather. Got to make sure you got plenty of food for yourself and your crew, and food for the slaves. You can't have them not eat in 12 weeks or whatever it was. How long was that voyage? How long? I'm looking. Yep, I'm looking it up now. How long slave ship? Okay. 6 to 10 weeks. You cannot have slaves to not eat in 6 to 10 weeks. You yourself, you cannot go 6 to 10 weeks without food and plenty of water. Do y'all really think that these Europeans got these ships, packed them full of food enough for some 200 to 300 slaves? Enough to get them back here, right? Really? Do you know how much that would cost? Do you understand how much that would cost? If you got that much money, there would be no need for slavery. If they could truly afford something like that, a mission like that, you wouldn't need slaves. The broke, desperate people who get their hands on a machine, Roscoe, what they do is they point it at whoever they find. That's the lazy, low down, low IQ thing to do. You find some welcoming people here, you point the Roscoe at them. I was listening to a video from, I think it was Neferkari Dessalines, where he went over I think it was a diary from a European explorer. And one of the things that this European made note of when he visited these black people, I think it was in Africa somewhere, one of the things he noted was, he said, they are very hospitable, very welcoming. And because they were so welcoming, the European explorer thought to himself, this will make it a lot easier to find out where their gold mines are. Find out where the bag is, where the money is. The only thing on the explorer's mind is, oh, it'll be easy to rob these people. They'll lead me to the riches. to their gold mine. Come show up because they're so welcoming already. Right? A lot of people look at that as a strength. I've always looked at that as a weakness. Being welcoming to strangers. No. You run strangers off. Especially if you can't speak their language. Why in the world would you do that? Why would you do that? You can't even hardly communicate with them. But you're going to be welcoming. Yeah, man. You got to start changing the way you look at things. The history in general is a big lie. A big lie. They've already been busted. How many of those how many artifacts in general have they found to have been faked? Right? They even got a Wikipedia. Fake historical artifacts. I've been to it a few times. No, that's not what it is. It's a name for it. Forgery. I think, right? Historical forgery. Or what is it? I forgot the name of it. But they found numerous artifacts that they claim to have been from ancient times to have been faked. Modern people just made them. I told you about that crew that used to go out to these historical digs, and in the middle of the night when everybody else was asleep, they would go out there and they would artificially just plant some type of artifact that they made in the dig. That way in the morning when they continue with their dig, they'll find this artifact. Oh yeah. So it's a wrap. So we don't have no question but to question history as a whole. As a whole. And this is part of it. Questioning these stupid statistics, talking about we only make up 12% of this country. I've been saying all this to say that there are a bunch of liars at the top. At the top, they are a bunch of liars. And they're like passionate liars. Passionate because there's an agenda behind the lies. I don't want you to feel like you are much stronger than me. So I'm going to tell you, you only make up 12% of this country. That'll scare you. Don't you ever try to step to me, because you're only 12% of this population. You see, that's the purpose of that 12% lie. You're a minority. You're a minority. We could crush you just with a sneeze. Wipe you clean off the map. You're only 12% of the country. See, if I tell you you're 50% of this country, oh, you might stick your chest out a little bit. You see, you might feel a little strong, and then you'll go, you put some extras on those protests. You'll be more willing to challenge me, period. So we tell you you're 12%. And how long have we been 12%? For I don't know how long. Stop with the nonsense. I question any and everybody out here claiming that we only 12% of this population. Do your homework. Salute everybody in the chat. And I will see y'all on the next live.